Hello everyone, welcome to our Thursday Tech Spark. My name is Ivy. I'm the account manager here at Lingwall. And this is the first time I'm hosting the Tech Spark section. I hope everybody enjoy it. And I have my expert, Kai, join with me today. He is our product manager here at Lingwall USA, as well as a general manager at Lingwall Power Solution.
Thank you, Ivy, for the introduction. Yeah, and thank you, Ivy, for hosting the show.
Thank you, Kai. So before we get started, if you have any question, feel free to ask in chat. Our team will help answer the question. Let's get started. So today we are very excited to announce that we have a very new product, which is the first product from our Mingwall Power Solution. Is our rack mount power distribution unit. So Kai, congratulations to your first product.
Thank you.
Can you give us a brief introduction what exactly the RDU is?
Yeah. So the RDU20G is our first product, and it stands for rack distribution unit. And so what rack distribution units do is that it's intended to distribute the power. And the rack distribution unit is also known as a load distribution unit or power distribution unit in the industry. And I have on the screen here a depiction of our RDU20G. As you can see, it is intended to be mounted inside of 19-inch rack units. So same as our, the Mingwall rack power.
Yeah.
I have also shown here the front view and back view of the unit. So you can see on the front view, which is the customer facing, where the front of the cabinet usually is where all the fuse slots are. So we have 20 fuse slots here, corresponding to the 20 channels for the outputs. And on the back, you can see that we have on the left and right the bigger terminal blocks. Those are for wiring in the input bus voltage. So they will typically be wired from a single high current, high power source, and then to be distributed into the 10 plus 10 different channels.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, it's a great design to help provide the centralized and efficient solutions to manage the DC power within the rack. And I also see you mentioned the GMT fuse. And what is a GMT fuse and why we are using the GMT fuse for our RDU?
Yeah, so GMT fuse is actually a specialized fuse manufactured by Eaton Busman. And it is a very commonly used fuse in the telecommunication and data center and power distribution industry for the reasons I've listed here, right? So they're compact and fast acting. That means that they are able to trip and protect the devices within the required time limit. And then they support a very broad current range. So the GMT fuse in the same form factor, the customers are able to find fuses ranging from 18 milliamp all the way to 20 amps.
Wow.
So they can, depending on the power requirement by their load, by the equipment, they can select the fuses that are appropriate for the fuse rating. If say they need a 2 amps on one of the channels to power a camera or something, they can select a 2.5 or 3 amp fuse to achieve the protection. Otherwise, if you put a 20 amp fuse in there, it's not going to protect that 2 amp device. Yeah. Yeah, and then one special thing about the GMT fuses is that they do have a visual indication flag for whether they're tripped or not. So by putting the fuse slots in the front of the unit, we are intentionally allowing the users to see which channel specifically has a problem. The fuse itself will have an indication flag that the fuse has been tripped. So that will lead to the easy replacement. So the customers can just pop it out and pop it back into the fuse without having to open up the unit to access it internally. Yeah, and then linked to the fuse, of course, we do have on the front panel and back panels, you can see in the front panel towards the center, we do have some LED indicator lights that work alongside the fuses to show that the bus power has some abnormality. And at the back, we have the terminal blocks for control signal wiring as well.
Oh, I see. So the GMT fuse actually to protect your like valuable and expensive equipment. Okay, I got it.
Mhm.
And actually, meanwhile, already provide a very wide range of power rack power units.
Mhm.
So, why is the RDU a good complement to the existing product line?
Yeah, so I have here the complete meanwhile rack distributed rack power portfolio. And you can see we have products ranging from 1000 watt modules to 3200 watt modules to the NCP 3200, which is the newest model. So we have single output up to 12.8 kilowatts. And we've designed the RDU to kind of match this maximum power rating so that it's able to support the distribution of the rack power up to 12.8 kilowatts. And so here is just a depiction of a use case. You know, for of course the user can wire one rack to one RDU, but I have here the top two use are the DHP racks, and then they are powering the separate buses on the RDU. The RDU will take that output from each of these rack power and then break that into 10 different outputs to reduce the current limit and to protect the lower power devices that's down the road.
Okay, got it. So you use DHP as an example. So is this only compatible with DHP or compatible with all the rack unit you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, of course not. So the DHP is designed for up to 12.8 kilowatt in a single unit. I will introduce later, you will see that for the RDU, the maximum power is also around 12,000 watts for the total distribution. I do want to make a note that the NCP 3200 380, meaning the high voltage model of the DHP rack. This one unfortunately won't be compatible with the RDU, but everything else will be able to work with RDU. So for the 12, 24, and 48 volt DC models, they're all compatible. Yeah, and you asked earlier, how do we complement the rack power, right? So meanwhile, we have the large selection of rack power and functions. They all support hot swap, they all support PV and all that. So that's great, but we have customers that run into issues when they're trying to install these in the field or to spec a power supply for their application. Because by default, the meanwhile rack power, we combine and parallel all of the power supply modules. So there's no built-in power distribution within the rack itself, meaning all the customer get will be one high current, high power output bus. So they will want to use the RDU to pair with that and then to distribute the power.
Well, sounds great.
Mhm.
So let's dive deeper into it. Could you please introduce the key features, specifications of our RDUs?
Yeah, so the RDU I've listed here on the key features. And so we named it RDU20G because it supports 20 output channels. So it's a 20 channel rack load distribution unit, and we are able to support positive minus 10 volt to positive negative 60 volt in a single model. So there's no the typical 12 volt, 48, 24 volt models selection. So there's just one single model, and it's able to work in this wide range. And we can have up to 20 of the channels that's individually GMT fuse protected. So up to 15 amps each channel. So customers, of course, can use 5 amps in one channel, 15 amp in the other channel, so on and so forth. Just need to make sure that the total load is under 200 amps. Yeah, and then we also have two independent DC buses actually. So the unit is divided in the bus A and bus B on the left and right configuration. So they're actually not in parallel or not commonly grounded even. They're actually separate buses completely. And this is to support the redundancy or mixed voltage system applications to provide more flexibility in the customer application. Again, it is designed to work together with meanwhile rack power to complement the meanwhile rack power. So we more or less see this as a accessory to the meanwhile rack power family. As I mentioned briefly earlier, we do have built-in LED and Form C relays on the unit. So the built-in LED indicators will be on the front of the unit, and they will be indicating the operating status of either of the buses. So they will have a light indicator for whether or not the bus input is okay. And then they will also have a light indicator for whether or not one of the channels is abnormal or popped. So the users can quickly, notice if there's something wrong with the unit, and then by looking at the fuses themselves, as I mentioned earlier, the GMT fuses, they have a visual flag indication for whether or not they're blown. So then they can identify which fuse, and then they can replace that fuse accordingly. And for customers that want more higher level of system integration, we do also offer the Form C relay alarms at the back of the unit, where all the wiring happens. So users can wire their controller or their monitor to monitor these relays to see if a channel has been tripped or not. So for the RDU in general, our target applications will be for telecommunication systems. A lot of the microwave radio systems or land mobile base stations will operate within this power range. And it's especially important for telecommunication systems to have good power distribution, and then to have the redundancy I mentioned earlier. We have the two buses to support the redundancy configuration, right? So it can be a very solid scenario for customers to use this. And then we also have the data centers. They also use a lot of load distribution for peripheral equipment or for their server equipment. So if in a DC distribution scenario, they can also use the RDU20G to achieve that. Yeah.
Got it. So these features make it great fit for the telecommunication or data center industry. These are all faster growing industries, a lot of opportunities there, and I'm pretty sure a lot of competitors there as well.
Yeah.
So my next question is gonna be hard. So why our customer will choose Mingwell? Is there any significant key features that make us stand out from all the competitors?
So I prepared here a comparison chart with most of the key players that have a similar product. So I want to preface this by saying that the RDU20G is a rather entry-level product. So the protection is still by GMT fuse or by fusing the physical analog fuses. Whereas some of in the industry, there are more advanced products that are e-fuse or digitally controlled and things like that. So that's our next step, that we have in plan to develop more digital control and more intelligent units. But as an entry-level model, our model actually stand out in the market by being one of the only ones that provide the positive and minus 10 volt to positive negative 60 volt in a single model. So as you can see on our competitors, so either they break it into multiple models to have a positive minus 24 volt, a positive minus 48 volt model, or they need the user to configure the unit to either operate in 10 to 60 volt positive or 10 to 60 volt negative. So it does not support both modes. But for the Mingwell unit, we are able to configure and support both without any additional modification or adjustment to the unit. Yeah, and then other things, I think the specs are pretty much similar across the board, such as the maximum current per bus and then the total current. But we also support 10 channels. So we're able to fit up to 10 channels. Of course, customers don't necessarily need to use all 10 channels. They only have 8 devices, they just need to populate 8 channels, right? And if the channel is not used, if a fuse is not installed, it will not forcefully trigger the channel. So the users can rest assured. Yeah, so we have some competitors that are using breakers or blade fuses, but as you can see, GMT fuse is just the most common across the board. We also have very similar form factor and the smallest form factor out of all of the competitors. So we're only using a 9-inch deep design. Some of the competitors are using 11.5 or 9.3. And then in terms of safety, we have FCC and CE on the unit. So it is ready to be deployed in the US and eventually in Europe and other countries. And with all of this, bells and whistles and the outstanding spec, our price is actually very competitive and is in line with what the other players they are. Some of them we're even less expensive than most of them. Yeah.
Sounds great, and thank you for putting this together. So if you're looking for plus minus 10 to plus minus 60 volt, 10 plus 10 channel, cost efficient RDU, meanwhile could be your best choice. Thank you, Kai. And we're talking about the features. I'm still wondering, like, how our customer would actually use or configure this RDU when they're in the field.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, we have the two separate buses to support either redundant configuration or mixed voltage configuration. So here I have an example of a system diagram for the redundant configuration. And in this case, we have the power supply A and power supply B running the same output voltage, the same DC bus voltage. And so they will each of the unit will be used to power the one of the buses on the RDU20G. And as you can see for the equipment down the line, so for equipment number 1 and equipment number 2, those are the more mission critical and important equipment that cannot afford any downtime. So they also support the redundancy power input. So we have the power connection from both buses into those units. Whereas for equipment number 3 and 4, they may be less important and not as critical, so so they don't need to have the redundancy of both of the channels. Yeah.
Okay, so if that means it is a bus voltage sources limited to power supply only?
Oh yeah, of course not. So you know, for in this scenario, right? Some viewers or customers may notice, you know, if the utility power is lost, the redundancy doesn't matter. Everything's still going to go dark. So so customers in the field actually have the option to replace one of the power supplies with a UPS, for example, so that you know so that adds another layer of redundancy. So if the utility power is lost, the UPS will still take over and power the critical equipment. And then by running this separate buses, we also have the advantage of not having the less important equipment fight for power with the important equipment. So for the equipment number 3 and 4, if say I was to configure the mission critical system, right, I would wire them to power supply A, the bus A, which is just a normal power supply. But the redundant equipment, they will both be wired with the connection to the supply B, which will be a UPS in this case. So during the UPS backup from the battery, they won't be consuming as much power because the equipment 3 and 4 won't be fighting for the power for them, right? And yeah, and here is just a quick example of one such device. So this is a microwave communication module, and on the right side is the picture showing the unit, and it's a little small text, but you can see towards the left of the unit, we have the minus 48 volt DC input terminal. But right on top of that is a redundant power supply connection. So these devices are purposely manufactured to have two different inputs. A lot of them are both two different DC inputs of the same voltage. Some of them can be different voltage, or some of them can even be an AC voltage. So it's really flexible in what these devices are able to support. And in this case, we have the back to the example earlier, right? We have the two DHP power racks. One of them is connected to bus A, one of them is connected to bus B, and then they will be powering the unit redundantly on the microwave system.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction for the redundancy mode. So how about the mixed voltage function?
Yeah. So you know, similar block diagram setting, I have a mixed voltage configuration for you guys. And so now we have the power supply A powering the bus A will be a 12 volt power supply, and we have a negative 48 volt DC power supply powering the bus B. So since they are separate channels, it doesn't matter that they're different voltage. But now what this allows is that in the same cabinet or the same system, the customers will have access to both a protected and fused 12 volt DC distribution, as well as a negative 48 volt DC distribution. And this is common in a lot of these telecommunication or communication in general module systems, where they want to have 12 volt equipment on the line for like controllers, monitors, and then they also have the 48, which is the actual communication equipment. So they're able to clearly distinguish them and separate them into the separate buses, but both are still protected and fused individually.
Sounds good. Thank you for the detailed introduction for all the configurations of the features. The last but most important question, like how can we order the RDU? Like, can you share with us about the availability and when it's ready for shipment?
Yeah, we recently just finished the lab certification testing on FCC and CE in February. So the first batch production is underway right now, and we already open for the new product launch orders from our distributor partners. So first production units will be shipping from Kansas City, Missouri in early May of 2025. And most of the meanwhile authorized distributors in the US will stock these units. We already have a lot of the MPI orders from our customers. So yeah, you guys in the USA market can expect to be able to see this on the market around May 2025 timeframe. And then right now we're only launching this for the USA customers and USA distributors. But you can see we have completed the CE testing already. So we're planning to also go global at a later date. But right now, just that the specification, the GMT fuses, and the demand from the other regions, we don't have really a clear demand. So yeah, if you have customers that want to buy them from overseas, please reach out to us too, and we can ship that and manufacture and produce that either in the USA, or we're considering also moving to Taiwan for that maybe in the future. Yeah,
sounds great. It's great to know we are on track, ship it out early May 2025. And if you have any question, feel free to contact your sales, either specification, price, lead time, or if you have any technical question, we have Kai, TC, and Min Kai. They can answer your technical question in Meanwhile Power Solution. So yeah, that's it for today. And our tech spark will be held every last Thursday. So next one is gonna be on April 24th with Andrew and Corinne in introducing our XDR and XTR new DIN rail series. So yeah, thank you again for everybody for joining us today, and I hope everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.